Welcome to ESPN's Rivalry Week, presented by Wendy's. Wake Forest meets NC State at PNC Arena in Raleigh. The Demon Deacons looking to sweep the season series from the pack. We are 3 weeks from Selection Sunday, and Joe Lenardi, our bracketologist, currently projects 8 teams from the ACC in his field. Duke on the one line, big win at Syracuse yesterday. Virginia, also a projected 1 seed. North Carolina, right now, a projected 2 seed, according to Joe Lenardi. They had the win against Duke earlier in the week. Virginia Tech, number 4 in the ACC, a 5 seed, according to Lenardi, for the NCAA tournament. Florida State has played much better of late. Louisville has started to slip. They're down to a 6. And then Syracuse, a 9 seed after the home loss to Duke, and NC State, a 10 seed. And with that, we say happy Sunday. Nish Schropp alongside Corey Alexander. You look at where Joe Lenardi has NC State right now. That tells you there's not a ton of margin for error. The good news for NC State, the back half of their schedule, the last 4 or 5 games, very manageable. But if you lose tonight, that can really hurt you.
They really can, because you can consider those as bad losses when you don't have heavy competition at the end of your schedule. For example, NC State's worst loss this year is a loss at Wake Forest. So games that the Wolfpack are going to have to take advantage of, and of course they would love to get the double-digit wins in the ACC.
Right now, NC State, a 500 team in the ACC. They have won 3 of 4. The non-conference strength of schedule does hurt their resume. But again, beginning with Wednesday's game against Boston College, NC State plays a lot of the bottom feeders to close out their regular season, a chance to gain some momentum. But losses to those teams can scar that tournament resume.
And Anish, we have to remember that Wednesday game was an overtime game versus Boston College. So still, the bottom teams in the ACC are capable of winning on your home court. The Wolfpack have to make sure they take care of home.
Starting lineups for NC State. You just saw Wyatt Walker. We'll tell you all about his hairdo later on in the broadcast. Markel Johnson playing tonight for NC State. He missed 3 games with a back injury last month. The first of those games was against Wake Forest. Torin Dorn, the team leader in scoring and rebounding, and C.J. Bryce has been the team's leading scorer in conference games.
And Markel Johnson was missed significantly in that game. It was a game where NC State was only able to force 11 turnovers versus Wake Forest. And more importantly, they did not operate offensively the way Kevin Keith's team is used to doing without their point guard.
Meanwhile, for Danny Manning's Wake Forest Demon Deacons, Brandon Childress, the team's leading scorer, son of the legend Randolph Childress. And Danny Manning told us before the game, Childress played his best game last time out in a road win against Notre Dame. Efficient with his scoring, and he took care of the basketball.
And he also came up big on the rebound. So when you looked at it, 20 points, 8 rebounds. 7 rebounds and 8 assists with 0 turnovers, and it was the efficiency that Danny Manning was so excited about from his junior point guard.
Wake Forest missing 1 big piece tonight. That is Olivier Sarr, the 7-footer out of France. Sarr rolled his ankle in practice yesterday. He is out. They will continue to evaluate him going forward, and he was coming off the best game of his Wake Forest career.
Yeah, Sarr had a career-high 14 points and shooting 6 for 8 from the field in that win on the road over Notre Dame. So young player for Danny Manning, starting to pick up some momentum, but a setback for the Demon Deacons heading into a game where we're sure the Wolfpack are looking for revenge on an earlier loss in Winston-Salem.
Wake 3-10 this season. Danny Manning does have the win against NC State, and Wake looking to win back-to-back conference road games for the first time in a decade. Kevin Keith's outstanding ping pong player, looking to get to 20 wins for the 4th straight season. Did it at UNC Wilmington his last 2 years there, and looking to get to 20 in his first 2 seasons with NC State. Wolfpack tonight honoring Black History Month, wearing their Harlem Renaissance uniforms.
And so you're making me start with you earlier. Early in this game, you mentioned that Kevin Keith, not the fact that he's an excellent coach, but a great ping pong player. That's right. The most important part to you.
That's right.
Okay, so you already started our Sunday off on the wrong foot.
He's an excellent coach. He's an outstanding ping pong player. Here's Torin Dorn using the crossover. Braxton Beverly now. 5 to shoot. C.J. Bryce is fouled on the way up.
And Anish, we talked about the fact that Markel Johnson did not play in that loss at Wake Forest, but C.J. Bryce also got in early foul trouble and missed the majority of the first half. And of course, we know he's the leading scorer for NC State in ACC play and has consistently gotten better and better as the season's gone along. So without his production, it was also difficult for the Wolfpack to score in that game. But you see C.J. Bryce getting the scoring started here tonight.
Kevin Keats told me this morning at shoot-around that he saw what Damian Lee did going from the Colonial to the ACC. Lee played at Louisville, and he knew Bryce from their days at UNC Wilmington. Bryce played 2 seasons for Keats there, and he said, once I saw that Damian Lee's game could translate, I knew C.J. Bryce's game would translate to the ACC.
You know, but a difference between the two, Damian Lee actually left after his 4th year at Drexel and went on to Louisville, so he was an older, more mature player. C.J. Bryce is playing very well here at NC State, but it did take him a while to get adapted to the speed of the game and the way it's played here in the ACC. Wasn't as good in the non-conference as he's been during ACC play.
Wake Forest coming off a win Tuesday at Notre Dame. First true road win of the season. Jalen Horde, too strong. Battle for the rebound, and it comes to Markel Johnson. Horde had 16 and 10 in the first meeting against NC State. Beverly has been lights out from 3 of late. Guarded by Childress. 10 to shoot. Johnson spinning inside. A nice swivel for Markel Johnson.
But Anish, you see right there on the basket, it allows NC State to be able to pick up their 94-foot pressure. So Wake Forest handles the pressure, but now they're starting their offense 40 feet away from the basket with 15 seconds remaining on the shot clock. That's what the pressure does for NC State. When they're unable to turn you over, they still get you out of sync offensively.
Already shot clock under 10 as we get a whistle down low.
And you and I talked to Danny Manning about that before the game. Did you see Markel Johnson off of a beautiful move inside the paint, and the finish might be even tougher than the move was, going to the other side of the basket with the left hand. But Danny Manning told us about when Jalen Horde, because NC State will switch, and when they switch a smaller guard on the Horde, he has to take advantage of that on the block, whether he gets the basketball or he goes and gets it on the offensive rebound.
Here comes Dorn. Beverly hits the 3. 47% from 3 in his last 5 games. Sharon Wright Jr. Childress into the corner. Shondi Brown in and out. A 7-0 run by NC State. Danny Manning told us his team needed to, frankly, make shots, get in transition. Right now, NC State having its way, a 9-0 start for Kevin Keats' squad.
And you can believe that the players for the Wolfpack and definitely the coaching staff remember that loss in January at Wake Forest. And I'm sure it's been bulletin board material for Kevin Keats all week long. And you see that sense of urgency in the start of the Wolfpack tonight.
And a foul on the floor. Almost 3 minutes in, Wake still without a point. Wright picks up the foul, his first. The freshman Isaiah Musius checks in for Wake Forest. Freshmen have accounted for 43% of the Deacs scoring. And we were talking before the game, if you're going to be young in this league, you got to be young like Duke. It's hard to do what Wake Forest is attempting as this one is turned over. You have so many freshmen, and these aren't the Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett types necessarily, as good as Jalen Horde is.
And you have guys who are going to be in college multiple years and have the opportunity to develop with a great developmental coach in Danny Manning. But in year one, they're going to take their lumps, which Wake Forest has. And we're going to see Isaiah Musius a lot more at the 4 position. Plays more at the 3 normally, but without Olivier Sarr, Danny Manning will go with a smaller lineup and playing Horde and Musis on the inside, but that makes them a better shooting team as Brandon Childress is able to knock down the three from outside. Amazing stat. Brandon Childress has 33 of the now 79 made three-pointers for Wake Forest in ACC play. That's a lot of production from one player and also a lot of responsibility.
Beverly from the outside. Back iron. Here's another good Childress one. The last two games he's played on a weekend, 0 for 23 from the field before that made three.
So there you go. He's got better shooting percentage already tonight than he has in the last 2 weekends. And again, Danny Manning told us he'd rather him be 0 for 10, 0 for 12 as he was against Clemson and against North Carolina in comparison to going out being 0 for 2 and being passive.
Walker is fouled on the second to try. NC State opening the game with a 9-0 blitz. Before the game, the Wolfpack honored one of their recent greats. We'll tell you about that when we come back.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Wendy's new Made to Crave menu, available at participating restaurants now. And Dove Men Plus Care. Care makes a man stronger.
Before tonight's game, former ACC Player of the Year, T.J. Warren had his jersey retired. And Corey, my sources tell me that is the actual jersey he wore during his playing days at NC State.
Well, he's gotten himself in shape now that he's playing in the NBA. He better diet, I'm assuming. But T.J. Warren, great here at NC State, big-time scorer. And always, you know, very entertaining player to be able to watch. And, of course, great kid to be around. Good to see the success that he's had in the NBA. And, of course, happy for him that that jersey will hang. You know, a class himself, Tyler Lewis, and Rodney Purvis, 3 McDonald's All-Americans coming in at the same time. He was actually the only one to finish his college career at NC State, although that was only 2 years.
Jalen Horde, this second effort, and able to get a foul. On the other end, it was Devin Daniels crashing the boards. A 9-2 rebounding advantage for NC State early.
Well, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's three offensive rebounds for NC State, but these are the two best teams in the ACC at offensive rebounding, and Wake Forest actually #1 ahead of NC State. So that's one of the things that we're going to have to pay attention to all night long. But although Wake Forest is averaging over 14 offensive rebounds a game, they're only scoring 12 points a game off of those offensive rebounds. So that's the area where Danny Manning told us they have to make shots. When you get those opportunities, you've got to take advantage of them.
And not to be Debbie Downer here, but when you shoot 36% from the field in conference, there will be more chances, let's say, for offensive rebounds.
There you go. Way to go with the silver lining, Anish.
Sometimes it's a train track. Devin Daniels coming off a terrific game against BC Wednesday. 19 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 steals. He said he played angry. 24 in white.
Which happens to be the same jersey that was just hung in the rafters for T.J. Warren.
Well, they retired the jersey, not the number.
I understand. I see how that works.
Only one number is retired, and that's David Thompson.
And Devin Daniels better have a good game tonight with T.J. Warren right here. Otherwise, T.J. is going to ask for his number back.
Torrey Johnson knocks down the 3, his 4th game back after missing 4 with his shoulder. Graduate transfer out of Northern Arizona.
And Wake Forest missed Torrey Johnson. Torrey Johnson actually had 11 points in that game, 3 for 3 from the field and 2 for 2 from the line. So he was an important contributor to that win over Wake Forest, which happened to be the first ACC win for Wake this season.
Dorn turns it over. Fast break chance for Wake. Childress to Johnson. No foul on the contact. The layup is good, and that's what Danny Manning wants. Before that press can set up, beat NC State in transition.
Yeah, he said they need to get out in transition, try to get some easy buckets, and great job by my guy Bert Smith there not calling that, because it actually was Torrey Johnson that created the contact. So had he missed that, there would have been no harm done.
Daniels to the rim and able to draw the foul. Wake on a 9-2 run.
And I love the pass by Brandon Childress to lead Torrey Johnson exactly to where he needed to be. You see Johnson creating the contact. No travel on that, though. Does a great job keeping it between 2 steps and still taking that contact and giving himself an opportunity to finish. Otherwise, Johnson probably would have gotten that shot blocked had he tried to go straight up without the contact.
Foul was on Sunday Okeke. And it's Daniels at the line, the transfer from Utah. Prior to that game against BC, had been in a little bit of a shooting slump. And Corey, it wasn't just the offensive performance. He did a terrific job on one of the best scorers in the ACC in Kai Bowman.
Well, and that's where the area, when you think about the fact that NC State is built to defend in a 94-foot manner. You have to score to be able to set that up. They haven't been a great half-court defensive team since Coach Keats has been here, but they put so much pressure on you. The reason why they lead the ACC in forced turnovers, and they also make you make quick shots, quick attempts, and you see another one there.
It'll stay with Wake Forest officials, letting them play through the contact early.
You know, the pressure from NC State forces quick opportunities, but this time, KK almost coming up with the offensive rebound, but Funderburk there to able to deny that shot and keep 2 points off the board.
Dangerous pass. Sends Musius into the backcourt. Daniels all over him. And a kick ball. It stays with Wake.
Anish, I love Isaiah Musius as a player, and he's going to be really good at Wake Forest. But if I'm NC State, I'm taking my chances with Musius having to try to make a play against Devin Daniels 60 feet away from the basket. I like that matchup if I'm Kevin Keats. And Musius has the ability to handle the basketball and make plays, but that keeps the basketball out of Brandon Childress's hands, the guy that Danny Manning trusts the most to make the plays for the Demon Deacons.
Here is Childress, coming off a 20-point game in the road win against Notre Dame. Three-pointer from the corner, way off by Michael Wynn, the freshman from Albany.
One thing for certain, Michael Wynn is not bashful at all. When he is coming in looking to be aggressive offensively. A little long on that shot, but it will not deter Michael Wynn the next time he gets the basketball, unless this sub, Sharon Wright Jr., is coming into the game for Michael Wynn, because Danny Manning might not have been happy with that shot.
Yeah, that makes you a little bashful. Daniels throws one up, and it's pulled down by Johnson. Torrey Johnson weaving through traffic, has it tipped away. Blake Harris ahead of the pack for NC State. Lays it in, and the foul.
Torrey Johnson penetrating into the lane, but not strong with the basketball. Turns into an opportunity for Blake Harris to get out of transition. Brandon Childress trying not to foul. Ends up getting the call on that possession. Tried to swipe from behind. And Childress, who plays close to 38 minutes per game in ACC play, can't afford to pick up fouls early. You see he and Roger Ayers having a great conversation at half court. And it's one of the things I love about, the majority of the officials in the ACC are willing to have a talk with you. And you see great conversation there between Ayers and Brandon Childress.
I picture you back in your playing days as a great conversationalist with the officials.
Absolutely. These are my guys. I told you, I would walk out at the beginning of the game as a captain or in the jump circle and say, hey, guys, just for the record, if I miss a shot, it was a foul. And therefore, we had a great start off to our game. And they knew what to call, what not to call. If I made it, don't worry about calling the foul.
Negotiating always. Officials today, Roger Ayers, Bill Covington, and Bert Smith. Here's Jalen Horde, 5-star recruit. Does not get the bounce. Markel Johnson, the maestro of this offense, has had to be more of a scorer this year. Daniels. Helms passed on it. Inside, Funderburk, turnover. Third turnover by the pack. Here comes Sharon Wright all the way, the son of the former All-American Sharon Wright at Clemson, who was the 6th overall pick in the '94 draft.
And I've probably been saying it wrong forever. And you probably have actually gone to get the proper pronunciation of Sharon. But the dad I've called Sharon forever, and so I'm going to keep calling his son Sharon Wright until they tell me differently.
Even though it is Sharon.
Yeah, he's still Sharon.
All right.
Yeah. It's an E at the end of it, which makes it a long O. See? You didn't know I was up on all the phonetics of this, did you?
I didn't know you were a linguist.
There you go. Now you know.
Sean D. Brown knocks it down. This is also in character for you because even when you're wrong, you refuse to admit it.
Wrong is a state of mind, Anish.
You're on message, if nothing else. Markel Johnson against Wright. Sharon Wright. Daniels open. 10 on the clock. Helms. Johnson open for three. He's become a much better three-point shooter this year. 40% from distance entering tonight.
He really has, and Anish, his ability to shoot the three only enhances his ability to find his teammates, because when you have to rotate to him, it allows him to be able to get into the paint. If you close out short, you see he's capable of knocking down the three as well.
And a foul on the drive.
Markel Johnson led the ACC in assists a year ago, one of the best point guards in the ACC, and oh yeah, he's just added a little touch from beyond the arc.
You're watching the ACC on ESPN with Corey Alexander and Anish Shroff. Sunday night in Raleigh, PNC Arena, the setting. Second meeting of the season for Wake Forest and NC State. We talked about it at the start of the broadcast. NC State, their last 5 games, beginning Wednesday against Boston College. A game Kevin Keats' team won. It's a very reasonable stretch. It's a very favorable stretch. Outside of Florida State, they're playing the bottom feeders in the league. The good news is you can bank a lot of wins, can potentially get to 10, 11 wins before the ACC tournament. The bad news, you can easily fall to the bubble and to the wrong side of the bubble if you lose to some of these teams, including tonight against Wake.
And you see the remaining schedule for NC State. At Florida State, you mentioned, is a huge game. Georgia Tech and at Boston College. They have to take care of business tonight against Wake Forest, but then you look at that, there are 3 must-wins in that. If they don't win at Florida State, it wouldn't be the worst thing that happened with Florida State being as good as they are. But the other 3 games are must-wins at that point for NC State if they want to continue to have that firm hold in the field of the NCAA tournament. We've got a little bit of extracurricular activity.
Officials getting right in there to break it up. C.J. Bryce battling for the loose ball.
And in my opinion, that's just not a kind of smart play, because right there, you see in rivalry week the jump ball possession, but Smart does not have any of the basketball. He's pulling C.J. Bryce at that point. Going to be interesting to see. And right now, doesn't look as they're going to go and look at anything, but I like the move by Danny Manning, getting Smart out of the game.
And they did call a foul on Smart, and that's the right call. The initial call, jump ball. You're right, Smart came over the back.
He did, and again, he never had any of the basketball. He was just solely pulling C.J. Bryce, who, of course, pride kicked in with Bryce, and he was not going to let go of the basketball.
You know, I'm finally glad it was you who had to say rivalry week.
I'm going to say rivalry week. It's going to start with the W first, but it's going to happen at some point.
This is the week we all dread. Rivalry week, oh man, you got to say that 2-3 times a game. From the outside, Sean D. Brown. NC State started this game on a 9-0 run, and how many times this year have we seen Wake take a punch and not get off the canvas? This is a good sign for Danny Manning's team.
Well, they took a huge punch against North Carolina at home and got right off the canvas and went out and got a road win at Notre Dame. So continuing that effort here tonight.
Big Monday, a big one in the Big 12. Kansas, they were blown out against Texas Tech. That means Kansas State has a 2-game lead on the Jayhawks in the Big 12. A K-State win, and the 14-year KU run in the Big 12 could come to an end as Markel Johnson hits his second 3.
You know, Anish, I said earlier in the year, I thought that this was the year that it would go down. After Azubuike was injured and out for the season, and then you lose to Gerald Vick, I thought this was the year that KU would not win it. And right now, after that performance at Texas Tech yesterday, I think signs are pointing in that direction. Now, of course, they could definitely step up and beat Kansas State at home. But as you mentioned, Kansas State with that 2-game lead over Kansas, 1 over Texas Tech. I believe it will be one of those 2 teams that finish it up and win the Big 12.
Sunday Okeke just picked up his 2nd foul. And now they're going to the monitor to look it over.
And you have to remember they're playing without Olivier Sarr in this game. So the officials are looking for the potential hook and hold on this play from Okeke underneath. And as you mentioned, Olivier Sarr, who was coming off a career high of 14 points at Notre Dame, 6 for 8 from the field, rolled his ankle in practice yesterday, so unavailable in this game as we look to see the potential hook and hold right here. And it has to be with an intent to fool the officials. I don't think so. Honestly, on that opinion, when you see that Okeke jumped and Wyatt Walker, both these guys going for the basketball, no one pulling the other down, I think the officials will come away from this with nothing. And that would be the case. So it will be NC State's ball. And Wyatt Walker will shoot, so they are going to get a hook and hold on that possession. And I can be honest about this, Anish, and tell you that I've missed about 75% of these hook and hold calls this season. I didn't think that was a hook and hold. And again, from my understanding, it has to be with an intent to fool an official. I didn't think that was there on that one, but at the end of the day, these guys with the stripes on know that rule much better than I do. And I won't even try to interpret it any longer.
Point of emphasis, try to clean up the game, try to clean up post-play. And so that goes as a flagrant 1 on Sunday Okeke. Beverly, Johnson, Dorn, Bryce, and Walker, the original starting 5 on the floor for the Pack. Johnson's got 8. Here's Dorn, first field goal attempt. Off the mark. Rebound Walker.
And that's Wyatt Walker's game, offensive rebounding. He's always over the offensive glass. And you see, he would have another one if it wasn't for his teammate Torin Dorn taking that one.
Walker nearly had a 3rd offensive rebound. And they get Beverly for a foul, his first.
And Braxton Beverly trying to do what coaches used to tell us, especially when you're a smaller guard guarding a big. Do your work early in the possession. Try to stop that big guy from getting post position. He was matched up with Jalen Horde, trying to do that as Horde is able to get it in the paint and unable to finish over Beverly on that possession as well.
Johnson, he's got 11. Normally it's the second half when Markel Johnson goes off.
And Markel Johnson remembers having to stay back in Raleigh and watch that game and see his team lose on the road at NC State. At Wake Forest. And he wants to make sure that he plays his part in getting his team a win here tonight.
A backcourt violation due to the pressure by Markel Johnson. He's got 11 points. He's been a menace when he plays well. The Pack are awfully tough to beat. Moments ago, NC State honored the greatest player in program history, David Thompson. The only jersey number that's retired. Other jerseys have been retired. His is the only number that's retired. 1974 ACC champions, national champions, 30-1 that year. And that 73 team might have been even better. They were undefeated, but not eligible for the NCAA tournament.
And, of course, David Thompson winning the 1975 Naismith Trophy. And, again, the #1 pick in the NBA draft that year. And, Anish, I had the opportunity to spend some time with David Thompson a few years back. We were doing a show called the ACC Kings of the Court. And the amazing part of it is David Thompson is on the Mount Rushmore of ACC players. When I actually got to meet him and spend time with him, David Thompson is about 6'3", 6'4". I'm thinking that David Thompson is at least 6'7", 6'8", because you see his head above the rim on every picture that you would see of David Thompson and you see in the highlight dunks and him flying all over the place, he may be 6'4". And it was shocking to me to see that he wasn't a skyscraper, but the elevation that he had, and you saw all the highlights, and of course the fall, you know, the infamous fall, I believe in the 1974 Final Four, where he was actually able to come back and play after that, where most people for NC State felt that his career was over, and was able to actually come back and play. But the guy that Michael Jordan says was his influence in playing basketball, David Thompson. So, of course, that might be as great a compliment as you can get.
We agree on a lot of things. Mount Rushmore of the ACC, no debate. And it was David Thompson who introduced Michael Jordan when Jordan was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, I mean, Michael Jordan has made it very clear, forget the North Carolina-NC State rivalry. He has made it very clear that David Thompson was his biggest influence. That's the guy that he watched growing up.
Torrey Johnson, a rebound to Daniels. Childress nearly took it away, now does.
And that's the one area where Wake Forest actually has been pretty good in this game thus far. Only 3 turnovers for Wake Forest, now 4 for NC State.
Daniels picks up his second foul.
It's a nice moment there. Randolph actually showing Brandon some love on the sideline right there. Brandon taking off, running over to see Dad right quick. I got to get on Randolph sometimes. I think he might be a little too hard on my guy Brandon every now and then. So we might have our text conversations and phone calls. I'm like, hey, lay off my nephew right quick.
You know Randolph real well. You guys played high school ball together. How would you describe the relationship he has with Brandon as a coach?
A great relationship between the two of them, because Randolph is not afraid to coach him as a player, knowing that the relationship as father and son is on good footing. So therefore, whenever Randolph corrects him, and if he scolds him, whatever it is he has to say to Brandon on a basketball court, Brandon knows where it's coming from. And of course, I love the conversation from Brandon where he always talks about the fact that he wants to play his dad one-on-one. But Randolph's too smart for that. You don't do that anymore at this age.
So Brandon has never beaten Randolph one-on-one?
No, he has not beaten Randolph.
So once he got to the age where he could, Randolph quit.
Randolph was smart enough. That's not quitting. That's not quitting. That's called being intelligent.
Johnson. Dorn tips it away. Here comes Brandon Childress. Leaves it short, batted back to Torin Dorn. He's got Beverly open on the wing. Dorn takes it himself. First 2 points for NC State's leading scorer. And they get Beverly for his second foul. And
Danny Manning was extremely complimentary of Torin Dorn before the game, just talking about how much of a man he is to have to play against, and the matchup problems that he creates with his size, ability to drive the basketball from the wing, and also when he gets out in transition. We saw an example of that as Braxton Beverly now picks up his second foul, and most likely will sit the remainder of this first half.
Harris supplying the backcourt pressure.
And you see the luxury that Kevin Keats has to be able to have multiple guys. Right now, Markel Johnson guarding Sean D. Brown, allowing Blake Harris to really go out and spend the energy trying to pressure Brandon Childress full court, and allowing Johnson to be able to conserve some energy, because you and I both know, Nish, Markel is even better in the second half.
Five seconds on the shot clock. Johnson this season has had some big second halves. 15 against Vandy, 19 against Auburn, 17 against Miami, 14 against Clemson. He's the high man, though, in the first half with 11 to lead all scorers.
You get a look at the numbers, 39% in the first half, 61 in the second half, and has 8 games where he scored 10+ points or more in the second half. And again, that's great to have that level of leadership and also understanding of the climate of what the game needs, especially from your point guard.
And Corey, for a team that doesn't have the superstar per se, Crunch time. Johnson's the guy as Brown beats the shot clock, misses the shot, however. Markel Johnson's going to be the guy making the big plays with the ball in his hands down the stretch for the Wolfpack.
I agree with that, but with him adding the ability to shoot the basketball as well as he has, and he's always been good attacking the basket, that just allows him to play off the ball a little more and get a guy like Blake Harris more opportunities on the offensive end and time to come in and play and run the point guard position as he is right now.
Johnson's got 13. Shondy Brown answering with a 3. He's got 8. Wake has never led. NC State opened the game on a 9-0 run. Wake responded with a 9-2 run. Wolfpack now up by 8. Dorn the turnaround, blocked by Horde. There's the run out. And Horde dunks it home. Danny Manning told us his bigs have to run the floor against the Wolfpack.
You know, and look, Anish, when you look at the court right now, you see just a contrast in styles. Right now for NC State, they have 5 players on the floor, of course. 4 of those 5 did not start their career at NC State. You've got 4 transfers playing right now in comparison to 3 freshmen and 2 a sophomore and a junior for Wake Forest. So that's what the way you get old for NC State. It's about bringing in transfers, fitting them into the system for Kevin Keats. For Wake Forest, it's been about trying to keep them in the program and keep them from going pro way too early.
Johnson, who's got the ball, the only player who started his career with NC State that's on the floor. He crosses over right, got the pick from Funderburk. Now Funderburk calling for it down low, able to draw the foul. He'll shoot 2, and if that's on Horde, that's going to be his 3rd. It's on Shondy Brown. State up by 6.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Samuel Adams, brewed inefficiently since 1984. Savor the flavor responsibly.
With Corey Alexander, Anish Shroff courtside at PNC Arena. NC State looking to salvage a split of the season series against Wake Forest. David Thompson in the house tonight, and DJ Funderburk at the free throw line for the Pack. Funderburk spent a redshirt season at Ohio State, was then suspended, went to junior college before ending up at NC State. And Corey, you talked about it before we went to break. Kevin Keats has mined the transfer market, and he's had some pretty good success early on in Raleigh.
He really has. If you go back to Allard Freeman a year ago, who of course showed up huge on the road at North Carolina, gaining Kevin Keats a signature win during his first year as the head coach of the Wolfpack. But he's done a great job bringing in transfers that fit into his system in the first 2 years as the head man here in Raleigh.
Funderburk picks up the foul. Sharon Wright Jr. at the line. Corey, Sharon Wright's father was in a pretty good draft class, 94.
You mean Sharon?
Sharon. You can call him Sharon. You're going to call him Sharon, right?
I've been calling him for Sharon since we were freshmen in high school. I'm going to call him Sharon.
How about this draft class? Glenn Robinson, the #1 pick. Then you had Jason Kidd, Grant Hill, Juwan Howard, Jalen Rose, Eddie Jones. Yeah, it's not bad.
That's the draft class I was supposed to be in. My plan was to leave the University of Virginia after my junior year. Broke my ankle for game 1 of the season, and that derailed those plans. But yes, that was a great draft class, and you had Jason Kidd and Grant Hill both as co-rookies a year in that class. Hey, I like that guy right there, though. My favorite NBA player, by the way.
How much money did you have to bribe? How much money did you give our graphics operator to build that?
They just know how much you hate it, and that's the reason why. That's the reason why they did it. It's simply because they know how much it gets to you.
Somebody ate well last night.
For the record, 95 draft class, not bad either, though.
Joe Smith, the #1 pick, right?
Joe Smith, #1 pick. Antonio McDyess, 2. Jerry Stackhouse, 3. Rasheed Wallace, 4, and a young guy out of high school by the name of Kevin Garnett went 5. It's an old bald guy over the bench by the name of Randolph Childress who went about 18, and then, of course, me at 29. So pretty good draft class as well.
Right engulfed. Harris weaving. Now Johnson, 13 to lead all scorers. Season high and career high 27. That came in the win against Auburn.
And Anish, this possession was so smart by Johnson. Again, he was already feeling it when he caught the basketball over in the corner earlier. But instead of forcing a shot, he brings it back out, gets his team in the early offense, uses the screen and roll to perfection, and ends up knocking down a three-pointer without having to give the basketball up to any of his teammates. But he stays hot by taking a good shot.
Jump stop, Horde, and the bounce. 16 points for Johnson, 6 of 8 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. Jericho Helms will draw the foul.
And these, you see Markel Johnson right there. He knows that he's feeling good about his game right now, but instead of him trying to play one-on-one versus Brandon Childress, he gets in a screen and roll situation knowing that the bigs from Wake Forest cannot guard him, forces that switch, and of course buries the three-pointer by taking a higher quality shot on that possession in comparison to him just going one-on-one out of the corner.
Kevin Keatts really challenged him in the offseason to be more of a leader, be more vocal. Remember last year, Johnson was suspended 7 games while facing assault charges that were later dropped. And you've seen a different Markel Johnson this year. He's had to be more of the scorer. He hasn't been shy about taking over games when he's felt he's had to.
You know, and Markel actually had a very good growing up here at NC State. He started his career as a backup to Dennis Smith Jr. So having to deal with that guy in practice every day, Dennis Smith Jr., of course, went on to be the ACC Rookie of the Year, in which was a great class of freshmen that season. But Markel Johnson actually had a number of strong moments during his freshman year, really improved as a sophomore, 7.1 assists in ACC, the leader. And then, of course, adding the shooting touch right now, as hot as you can get, 5 for 6 from beyond the arc. Here in this first half, 19 points for Markel Johnson as he's having his way with the Deacons. He's making up for his production in 2 games. Missed the first one. He'll get it all back here tonight.
Super Tuesday from Blacksburg. It's Duke and Virginia Tech. Still no Justin Robinson back for the Hokies. Will Zion Williamson return for Duke? That's at 7 Eastern. And then Wisconsin and Indiana from Assembly Hall. Badgers 8-2 in the last 10 games. Story in this first half, Markel Johnson, the junior from Cleveland, 19 points, 5 threes. The 5 three-pointers match a career high that he set against Auburn earlier this year.
And we're used to seeing Markel do this in the second half, but he's come out extremely aggressive in this game, shooting the basketball well, but also being a facilitator, not just living on his scoring, getting his teammates involved as well, and of course the mark of a great point guard. And Markel Johnson, in my opinion, probably the most important member of this Wolfpack team, because he allows everyone else to do what they do well.
Horde with good position down low. Jalen Horde played his high school ball in North Carolina, grew up in France, 5-star recruit, biggest recruit to come to NC State since Al-Farouq Aminu, as Kevin Keatts uses his use it or lose it timeout. Well, 11 and white has been the story in the first half.
And Markel Johnson got off to a great start, knocking down the 3. And it continues to put so much pressure on Wake Forest defense with his ability to shoot from beyond the arc. 5 for 6 here in the first half, creating on the dribble, playing pick-and-roll basketball. In any manner that he's been able to find the three-point line, he's done so with success. 19 points, 5 rebounds, only 1 assist thus far, but 0 turnovers for Markel Johnson in the first half.
Not bad for a guy who doesn't really hit that extra gear until after halftime.
That's called a tease. That's making America wait to see what happens when we come back from the half. I mean, again, now, Nish, I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm Markel Johnson, this is just my philosophy, the way I'm thinking. I got 19 in the first half. You know this is a 40-point night. I'm coming back out with, if I can get 19 in the first half, I can at least get 21 in the second half. That shouldn't be that difficult to do.
Don't believe in the law of averages?
Man, forget that. Averages go up if you score more points. That's the law of averages I'm thinking.
Final seconds of this opening half. It's been the Markel Johnson Show. He's got 19. Over to Funderburk. That doesn't go, and the first half comes to a close. 41-32, the Wolfpack on top. 19 points, 7 of 9 from the field, 5 of 6 from 3, and 5 rebounds to boot for Markel Johnson. The halftime report is after this. You're watching ESPN's Rivalry Week, presented by Wendy's. Your score at the half: NC State 41, Wake Forest 32. Markel Johnson leading the way with 19 points for the Pack. He's the only NC State player that's made more than one field goal.
And Markel Johnson, of course, a great start for him here in the first half. But NC State has had 9 players to score. So when you look at it again, I mean, they all have one field goal, but you look at, hey, that's 9 different field goals, or at least 8 field goals from everyone else outside of Markel Johnson, and still enough for them to have a 9-point lead at halftime.
NC State opened the game on a 9-0 run. Wake Forest playing without Olivier Sarr today, the 7-footer from France, who had a career-high 14 last time out. Jalen Horde also grew up in France. So you know what that means. Danny Manning needs to get one more player from France, and then they would have a trio, and the nickname is built in. The Three Musketeers.
I was waiting to see where you were going with that one. And honestly, it was kind of a letdown for you. I mean,
Really?
You
Three Musketeers?
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
The
but,
French?
Yeah, I get it. But again, for you, you normally come up with something a little more clever than that gives me more reason to crack back at you. I actually figured out Three Musketeers. That's something that when you do your geography stuff and I figure it out, you know it's way too simple because I never figure out your geography.
Three Musketeers, I thought, with a third Frenchman, that makes sense. Even though the story is really about D'Artagnan, who was the fourth Musketeer.
Oh, see, now there you go.
Athos, Porthos, and Aramis.
That's the type of information I'm used to getting from you.
So the title really is a misnomer. Entry pass to Horde.
And it's amazing to see Jalen Horde, when he gets torn Dorn on his back, does not even attempt to score. It ends up being a great possession offensively, knocking down the 3 for Wake Forest. But Jalen Horde never even attempted with torn Dorn on his back. When he's gotten smaller players, he's been aggressive on the block, but was not with Dorn behind him, although Dorn is a smaller player who happens to be great in the mid-range, especially against the middle of his zone.
4 for Dorn, who came into this game shooting 53% over his last 4 while averaging almost 16 points and 8 rebounds. Entry pass to Horde against the smaller Bryce, and Horde using the size advantage.
And that's what Jalen Horde has to do. And again, C.J. Bryce isn't much smaller, if small at all, than Torn Dorn. Torn Dorn probably stronger, but Jalen Horde has to be able to be this aggressive when he catches the basketball on the block. And that's the reason, actually, why I've made the comment before, because I was kind of disappointed in Horde for not attempting to take Dorn to the basket when they were playing him against single coverage.
Horde completes the three-point play. All right, so here's one. Horde and Sarr. Had Sarr been healthy. That is Popeye and Cloudy, the French connection.
Oh, no. The only Popeye I know is the one that ate a bunch of spinach and got really strong because of it.
Popeye Doyle, Gene Hackman, the French connection, no?
Popeye, the Sailor Man.
We don't watch the same movies, right?
We do not.
Horde picks up his third foul. Here comes Dorn. Walker active on the offensive glass, but it comes to Shaundi Brown. Brown, the sophomore. Beverly gets his hand up. Beverly open for three. And it's going to belong to Wake.
Love that communication by the officials on that play. Roger Ayers does not have a good look at it, because it did initially look like it went off Brandon Childress until you see Torn Dorn hit the basketball, but then, of course, Bill Covington right on top of it. Love it when the officials communicate to make sure they've got the call right. They did it perfectly on that possession.
And a foul on the floor. And that's Beverly's third. He's had a rough night. 1 of 5 from the field. And now 3 fouls. And look, it's only a 2-possession game right now. And you're watching a Wake Forest team. They're young. They've taken their lumps. 9 of their 10 league losses have been by double digits. They've lost their 10 conference games by an average of 20 points.
And Wake, NC State dodges a bullet on there. Beverly going for the steal, leaving Shaundi Brown wide open in the corner. Brown has shot the basketball well in this game. Wake Forest unable to score, but it needs, to your point, the thing about Wake Forest at this point in the game, when they've stuck around this long, this gives them confidence and when they get later into the game. So right now, they feel like they're in good shape. As does Braxton Beverly now after making a shot inside the arc. He does the majority of his damage from three-point range.
Almost 3/4 of his shots are from 3. You know this as a shooter. Sometimes that's what it takes to get you going.
Absolutely right. Just seeing the basketball go through the hoop can build so much confidence.
Childress to Smart.
And I don't want to take a shot at Smart, but at the end of the day, that should be an assist for Brandon Childress. Brandon Childress does a great job manipulating the screen and roll, drops a dime to Smart, but Smart just doesn't really have the athletic ability to be able to go over top of defenders, and it ends up, Wake Forest keeps the basketball, but it's a difficult offensive possession that ends up in a big 3 for Brandon Childress. So I'm sure Brandon will, even though he doesn't get the assist, he'll take the 3 points.
Second to 3 of the half for Childress. It's a 5-point game. Johnson over to Beverly. That one does not go, and a foul down low. It's on Torn Dorn.
Childress takes a hard fall on that one. A little shaken up. Brandon Childress trying to come up with a defensive rebound. Torn Dorn doing what NC State does best, pursue offensive rebounds. That time just catches the arm of Brandon Childress, who takes an awkward fall, but will stay in and play on. And that's just that foul. Okay, the NC State fans did not like that. The foul actually will go against Jalen Horde. I believe that will be his 4th foul. But that puts Horde in a tough situation, just trying to handle the basketball 94 feet versus Torn Dorn, who is very good guarding 94 feet. And because of it, Horde will have to take a seat. 16 minutes remaining in the second half. That's a huge foul for Jalen Horde and making him go sit down with so much time remaining in this game.
Johnson, his 6th 3. He's got 23. And with Horde on the bench, that's Wake's 2nd leading scorer. There's an opportunity right now for NC State to create some separation.
And also what it forces Wake Forest to do is play Smart and OKK in those pick and roll situations against Johnson, where he has been able to dominate those matchups all night long.
Smart turns it over. When we come back, the story behind Wyatt Walker's hair. He has what's called havoc hair, and it's for a great cause. We'll hear from Wyatt on the other side.
I was nominated by a friend of mine for the Headstrong Foundation, which is a foundation that does cancer research, raises awareness. And when I found out about it, I learned that there's a crazy hair havoc challenge. So for game days, athletes do their hair in crazy styles. And it's mostly girls because they kind of got longer hair. But I thought that'd be a great thing for me to participate in. So I made a fundraising page, and it exploded pretty quick. I think right now, out of everyone, I'm in like the top 5 of most money raised so far. So yeah, I had last game. I had one of my friends, Kristen Chapman, on the NC State volleyball team. She braided my hair in like 3 different braids on the top of the head, and you know, a few of the papers and stuff wrote about it. So it kind of, you know, helped raise awareness, and it's for a good cause. And we got a game day today against Wake Forest, so I'm gonna let her braid it again. And I told her this time she can kind of do what she wants. She wants to go kind of crazy and see what she wants to do.
Walker currently on the bench, but the havoc hair in play and for a good cause to help families overcome cancer. That one rattles out by Daniels, and it comes to Wake. 11-point lead for NC State.
It's NC State starting to find their rhythm right now, especially from beyond the arc. Braxton Beverly knocking down one and then forcing another turnover. You got to find Beverly on this possession, even though they end up with a layup from Dorn. I think Devin Daniels was looking for Beverly. Mishandled the basketball, unable to get it over. Ends up being a bucket for NC State anyway. For the record, Anish, I used to have havoc hair as well. I had braids back in the day. You wouldn't even believe that, would you?
No, I've seen the old pictures.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Johnson the rebound. An 8-0 run by NC State. They've got their largest lead. Beverly whips it inside to Thunderbird. Timeout, Danny Manning and Wake. It's a 15-point lead for the Pack.
And Kevin Keats is loving the way that his team is sharing the basketball right now. Havoc hair, Anish. I used to rock it. Wyatt's doing it a little better than I did. And these coaches always ask their bigs to run the floor. Well, this time, DJ Funderburk, the recipient of a beautiful dime from Braxton Beverly, fooled everyone on the court. I honestly thought he was going to the corner to Torin Dorn. I was already looking for the basketball to go there. Braxton fooled me as well and put the pass right on the money to Funderburk for the nice dunk. And NC State now really starting to develop a rhythm offensively, getting out in transition and holding a 15-point lead.
In music, when you speed up the sound, it's called allegro. That's what this offense is right now. They're going fast. This is how Kevin Keats likes it, but they're also in rhythm.
Now, see, that is information that I like.
Okay.
That might be the first time, and we've been doing this, what now, 4 or 5 years? You may have just given me the first thing that I can actually take from you that I can use.
You can use that allegro? You like that?
I like that one. That was a pretty good one. And I don't like complimenting you. You know I don't like that. But that one was pretty good there, sir.
Only took 4 years to get a compliment out of you.
And,
wow.
you know, and we needed that from you, especially after your little Three Musketeers reference today.
Torin Dorn. And is rebounded by Brown. 15-point lead for the Pack. Childress the crossover down the lane and able to draw the foul.
Now, we've talked a lot about Wake Forest, and when they've taken that punch, do they respond? Well, in the first half, they got off to a slow start, took a big punch from NC State early, and they responded, making it a game throughout the entire first half. Now, NC State has come out at the beginning of the second half, throwing a huge punch. We'll see how Wake Forest responds this time.
Beverly just picked up his 4th foul, so Beverly on the bench now with 4. Horde has 4 for Wake Forest. 10 for Childress, who last weekend was 0 from the field against UNC. In fact, the last 2 weekend games that he had played in 0 for 23 prior to tonight. But coming off a 20-point game midweek against Notre Dame, and Danny Manning said that was the best he's seen Brandon Childress all season.
And more importantly, Brandon Childress playing without turning the basketball over. 8 assists, 0 turnovers versus Notre Dame. And from my last check, 0 turnovers thus far here tonight. Wake Forest has had their share, but Brandon Childress has not been the culprit, even though Wake has been able to keep their numbers down. 4
to shoot. That ball was tipped. Johnson, a rare miss. He's now 8 of 12 and 6 of 9 from 3. Torrey Johnson. Inside, Mucius. Funderburk rips it away. And they're going to get Funderburk for an offensive foul. The elbow's a little too wild.
You see Musius unable to finish over Funderburk, but as Musius crowds the basketball and it looks as though he's trying to get out of the play, that left arm, what we like to call the chicken wing, swings through, knocks Musius down, giving the foul to Funderburk. Not a popular call here at PNC Arena, but I believe the right call.
Childress's three not there. Walker checked in for Funderburk.
You know, Nisha, very different element for Kevin Keats in this NC State program. They have 10 players available to play on the roster. Lockett not with the team right now, so 9 for today. But they don't have a scout team of walk-ons. They just have their 10 guys that Kevin Keats relies on. C.J. Bryce being one of those major guys, knocked down to 3 to extend the lead to 16 now for the Wolfpack.
That's actually been a little bit of a point of contention with some of the fan base. Why don't they have walk-ons? Do you see that as a big deal?
You know, it's different. I'm not going to say that it's a big deal, but when you don't have those walk-ons to have a scouting report, and you and I both have seen the NC State shoot-arounds, they get after it. And he doesn't want to waste time with guys who are not going to play in games. He wants to make sure the guys that he's going to rely on, and he plays everyone available on the roster. And he wants to make sure those guys are all locked into what they need to be doing.
Jarrett Cole-Helms, he's really the only freshman that sees the floor this year. Manny Bates is redshirting after off-season shoulder surgery, and Ian Steer left the team after 1 game. Childress past Walker, and the foul.
And a nice finish going to the left hand for Brandon Childress, maneuvering his way through the trees. NC State is rolling here in the second half. Brandon Childress doing everything he can to fight back.
Super Tuesday, a doubleheader. It's Duke at Virginia Tech, then Wisconsin and Indiana. Will Zion Williamson return for Duke after injuring his knee? The shoe explosion against North Carolina, that had to bring back some flashbacks for you.
It did, Anish. My freshman year at the University of Virginia. And, of course, as I went into college, I had 3 prerequisites for teams that recruited me. I needed to wear Nikes. I needed to start as a freshman, and I needed to wear the number 3. Well, the number 3 was retired. Jeff Lamp would not let me pull it out of retirement. I was going to start. And then my coach, who recruited me, Jeff Jones, who said, yeah, we'll get you a Nike. Sonny Vaccaro was my guy, said, we'll get Virginia Nikes while you're there. And we end up wearing Converse. I felt hoodwinked. I felt bamboozled. The first 16 days of practice, I went through 17 pair of Converse.
So did you go full Zion on those shoes?
Multiple days.
Wow.
Multiple days.
And no injuries, nothing?
No injuries, none of that. But I would go, make a move, and I can tell you right now, Nish, this was back in my prima donna days. You know, nothing like the humble person I am now. I would throw an absolute tantrum in practice. I would take the shoes off, throw them in the stands, yelling at the managers, go get my Nikes out of the locker room. I mean, just straight drama queen. And I tell you right now, it was, when I saw the shoe from Zion, it did bring back memories of that. Now, Zion went through the leather. He went through the leather. I was tearing up a sole. He went through the leather. But I made the comment as Markel Johnson finds his way to the rim for his easiest bucket of the night. I made the comment, I'm a Nike guy. People know that. Zion Williamson had no business in those shoes. Those shoes are not made for a person that weighs over 270 pounds. LeBron James makes a shoe for people built like Zion Williamson because he's built like that, which are perfect for Zion.
I'm still stuck on back in my prima donna days.
Yeah, that was way back. You don't know that guy, Nish. You've never met him.
I met him a couple hours ago. Met him last Saturday, last Sunday, the weekend before that. It's been a couple of weeks, though, since one of your shoe tantrums, though.
Yeah, been a while. Been a while on that one.
Johnson drops it off for Helms, knocked off. And it's last touch, NC State.
First mistake, and Markel Johnson pats his chest, letting Helms know. First mistake I've seen from Markel Johnson in this game thus far. That's one where he has to throw it up at the rim. When I tell you that Jericho Helms is a big-time athlete, you're talking about a young man who comes from Chaminade in St. Louis, the same school as Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal, and David Lee, and watched him playing for the St. Louis Eagles on the Nike EYBL circuit. I've seen him go way above the rim. That's one I would have loved to have seen Markel throw up in the air.
14-point lead for NC State. They have led by as many as 16. Torrey Johnson in trouble. Almost turned it over. 6 to shoot. A lot of dribbling. Johnson throws it up off the glass and bailed out with a foul. Funderburk's third. Stanley from The Office, one of the fat heads. He was at the Wake Forest Notre Dame game, the actual Stanley in the flesh. So he's following Wake Forest basketball. Supposedly with a crossword puzzle, perhaps. Funderburk couldn't finish the bunny and a foul.
And a beautiful pass that time from Markel Johnson. Funderburk doing everything he can right to get that one to go in. The basketball just rolling out, coming up with the offensive rebound opportunity for those 2 points at the free throw line, but an easy look for Funderburk, just unable to take advantage of it.
OKK picked up the foul. Funderburk tucking in his jersey.
I would love to hear Little John say Sunday OKK's name. Just think about it. You're telling me you never thought about that?
I want to do it. Ready?
Do it. Do it. Let me hear Denise do it.
OKK.
There you go. I love it. I love it. I've been waiting. I just thought about that so many times. Every time we do a Wake Forest game and I see Sunday OKK, I'm thinking Little John doing that voice. Yeah, that was a very good Little John, by the way.
I appreciate that. That's 2 compliments in one night. Stop.
I don't know what's going on. I must be sleepy.
13-point lead for NC State. You see us? Torrey Johnson, Childress. Nice move, high up off the window, and it goes behind the backboard. Blake Harris, the Missouri transfer, checking in for NC State.
And Blake Harris did a very good job in the first half, running the point when Braxton Beverly went out with his second foul, moving Markel Johnson off the basketball. Now he'll man it without Johnson on the floor. 4 of the reserves on the floor now for NC State, along with C.J. Bryce. And this is where Kevin Keats normally allows his bench to be able to try to outwork the opposing team's bench. But right now, Wake Forest coming up with the turnover.
The Demon Deacons just blew a run-out opportunity. 9 turnovers now for Wake.
And that's one of the areas where Wake has been really good thus far in this game. And Brandon Childress tries to throw it ahead, but Torrey Johnson, for whatever reason, decides to stop. Childress knows if he picks that basketball up, it's a violation. Try to give one of his teammates an opportunity to pick it up.
The NC State bench this year has been so vital to their success. They average more than 30 a game. Funderburk with the dunk. He had 11 off the bench last time out.
And that's why they're so good off the bench, because you've got DJ Funderburk, who may be a better player than Wyatt Walker, but comes off the bench, allowing Walker to start to give Kevin Keats that mix-up in that offense when he goes to his sub.
OKK draws the foul. Funderburk doing work. Down low. Little thunder from Thunder. Kevin Keats State's has received 18 points from his bench tonight. The magic number is 20. When NC State gets at least 20 from their bench, they are 18-3. Less than 20, 1-5.
And Kevin Keats plays about strength in numbers. Believes in his starting five, but knows that he's going to need 9 and often 10 guys to be able to win in the ACC, especially to be able to play full court defensively like they love to do, forcing turnovers. And has gotten great production from all 9 players that have checked in here tonight.
Both free throws good by Okeke, who was just 5 of 10 at the line on the season entering tonight.
And the 6 points for Okeke is actually a new career high. You have to remember playing without Olivier Sarr. So between Okeke and Smart, they've gathered all the minutes at the center position.
Jalen Horde, meanwhile, back in there for Wake. He's got 4 fouls, so this is Danny Manning's gambit.
But at this point, now down 13, you really don't have much more time to wait to bring Jalen Horde back in. And, of course, you've got to ask the freshman to play smart basketball and not put himself in harm's way to try to stay on the court as long as he possibly can, but yet still be aggressive in doing so.
Okeke misses the first. The crowd chanting, "We want chicken," under 8. If the visiting team misses both free throws, that's Chick-fil-A.
They just made me hungry, by the way. No Chick-fil-A today, though.
There it is.
Still won't get it today. Chick-fil-A not open on Sundays.
That was Sunday. Okeke fittingly missing both free throws. Three-pointer is good by Helms. 16-point lead for NC State.
And now the 10th three-point field goal made for NC State. And when they're shooting the basketball this way, they're extremely difficult to beat. Of course, they love to shoot the three, especially in transition before teams can get back and set their defense and have multiple guys that can knock down the three. As a matter of fact, every person that has played for NC State this year has made at least 1 three-point field goal. I'm not sure there are many teams in the country can say that.
Here's Horde. He's got the 4 fouls. Over to Sharon Wright Jr. Or as Corey calls him, Sharon Wright.
That's his name.
Horde. Bryce fighting for the rebound, out of bounds to State.
I'll let you call the young one Sharon, but Dad is Sharon.
ESPN and the ACC will bring you the ACC Network in August. 15 universities, 1 network. Visit getaccn.com to learn more. And the first live event, Clemson and Georgia Tech football on a Thursday night to begin the season. The defending champion Tigers. Another basket good by Jericho Helms. Largest lead of the game for the Pack.
And we talked about the fact that there were 4 reserves on the floor for Kevin Keats, and Keats is actually giving this group significant minutes, and they're repaying their coach for doing so. They're doing the job defensively, but also extending this lead, and that's what you want from your reserve players, to make sure the game is in better shape for your team when they come out of the game than it was when they came in.
Childress knocks it out. In fact, the bench has extended this lead.
I would say, are you not listening to me? But I know you're not, because that's not what you do.
But
I just
enforcing and reinforcing your points, Corey.
Oh, okay. I like that. Okay.
Happens from time to time. Don't be so surprised.
I'm not sure. You know, there's been a lot of going on between you and I today.
I don't know what's wrong.
And I don't like that.
Turnaround by Daniels. Funderburk missed that one, but he's given Kevin Keats good minutes the last couple of times out.
He really has, and the offensive rebounding, of course, is a strength of NC State.
Daniels has Helms. +1.
Oh, I saw something new, Anish. Jericho Helms. Of course, after the and 1, you knew he was going to flex. But I've never seen a player flex from their stomach. That is new. You see a guy fall down, he's on his back, he flexes. But Helms this time falls forward on his stomach and has a little flex for you right there. It's almost like flying flexing. No?
borderline flank position.
Okay, I'll take it.
26 points now off the bench for NC State. Only 13 in the first meeting against Wake, which the Deacs won. One of 3 conference wins for Wake. Horde challenging Funderburk. Horde gets it back and lays it in.
And that's a nice play there by OKK to be able to gather that basketball and not hold it, but still deliver it to Horde.
Daniels puts his game down, flips it, and reverses it. Daniels went over the back of right, no call. Musius can't finish. And Horde using the glass.
And Horde very fortunate on that play that he wasn't called for his 5th foul. Used that left arm to clear out Funderburk to be able to finish.
Now the challenge here for Wake, beyond a 19-point deficit. NC State has it, reinforcements waiting. Dorn getting ready to check in. Bryce. No good. Helms the rebound. It's picked up by OKK. Long outlet. Musius on the follow. Harris accelerating. And a block called on OKK, his 4th foul.
And now NC State going to go very small, bringing Torrin Dorn back in the game for Funderburk.
And Beverly back in with the 4 fouls as well.
But going to play, looks as though Helms will be the 5, matching with Wake Forest, who's playing a smaller lineup as well without Sarr.
And Corey, this crowd appreciates the effort from the Wolfpack bench.
Very intelligent basketball crowd always here in Raleigh at PNC Arena. One of the most passionate fan bases in college basketball. But they recognize it's a group that gets involved with the philosophy of their coach and how they want to be able to play. And they know when it's being done well. And they also know when it's not being done well and know how to make sure they get on their players in the right way.
End-to-end action. Daniels and Brown. Helms. Rebound right. Ahead to Horde, who lays it in.
And that just wasn't a great shot by Helms, which normally leads to a transition bucket on the other end of the floor, simply because your teammates are not expecting for that shot to go up. And puts him in a bad position, getting that defensive balance back in transition. NC State still holding on to a 15-point lead.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Wendy's new Made to Crave menu, available at participating restaurants now. And Dove Men Plus Care. Care makes a man stronger.
A lot of dignitaries in the house, part of Black History Month. TJ Warren was honored before the game. His jersey was retired. Erwin Holmes in 1956, the first African-American to take part in an ACC event. It was the 600-yard dash. First African-American graduate of NC State. David Thompson led the Wolfpack to that 74 championship. Naismith winner in 75. And Reverend Wilbert Johnson, who in 1972 was NC State's first African-American assistant basketball coach. And NC State tonight wearing their Harlem Renaissance uniforms. Horde, wild shot. But we get a foul. It is against Torrin Dorn.
And Wake Forest actually been able to get out in transition here late in the game, breaking the pressure of NC State and getting good looks at the basket. We've seen a number of breakaway layups. And Jalen Horde now gets to the free throw line, unable to make the first. But still a huge deficit for the Demon Deacons to try to pull out of with 3:03 remaining.
Pressure now by Wake. Beverly ahead to Daniels. Hits the rim looking for Dorn. Mucius. Rebound to Daniels. Dorn for two.
And we mentioned the smaller lineups both these teams are playing. Wyatt Walker back into the game for NC State. But outside of that, you pretty much have 9 guards on the floor with both these teams. So we're going to see a lot of fast action. I'm sure a bunch of threes.
And a foul called on Mucius. For Wake, they've not been a very good three-point shooting team this season.
We actually had Bert Smith and Torrey Johnson. Looks as though the two of them colliding.
Looks like they got Bert Smith right on the head.
Yeah, Bert Smith taking the worst of that collision with Torrey Johnson. Going to take a second to allow Bert Smith to get himself together and allow the cobwebs to clear a bit. And speaking of, got to send a shout out to my man Mike Eads. Re-injured that knee in the Duke game, Duke North Carolina game last week, and will miss the remainder of this season. Going to go ahead and have surgery. He actually missed early in the year, rehabbed it, got back, but just unable to finish out the season with it. So Mike, get well soon. We look forward to having you back in the ACC next year. Bert Smith seems to be fine. Going to finish it up.
Sports Center tonight at 11 Eastern on ESPN. Steve Levy, Kenny Mayne have the anchor desk. They'll break down the possible tournament teams with Selection Sunday 3 weeks away. Plus, former NFL All-Pro Jared Allen's plan to put together a team of NFLers to compete in the Winter Olympics in 2022 for, not football, curling. I've gone curling before, Corey.
I've watched curling before. Find it very interesting. Yet still have no idea the concept of what they're doing.
That's like shuffleboard on ice, kind of.
I just like the guy that's skating in front, brushing the ice in front of them.
And that's a foul on Horde, his 5th. He's done.
Foul on Horde, number 10, his 5th.
I would believe if information from the truck is correct, that person would be called a sweeper.
A sweeper,
It
yes.
is a broom, which means that sweeping could be exactly what they're doing.
I was in Fargo, North Dakota, and I tried the sweeping, which I found easier than the actual, I guess you would call it, curling. There's an art form, and there's a little bit of grace required. I didn't have that.
Yeah, my mom took me ice skating as a young fella, and you know,
Not for you.
early, you know, late 70s, early 80s, safety wasn't as much of a factor as it is today. I found myself headed to a rail that on the other side of that rail happened to be Afton Mountain. And so, you know, I clung to the rail instead of going over the rail and down Afton Mountain. And that was the last time I ever put on a pair of ice skates. So the skating part of all of this would be where I would fail anyway. No part for that.
Your hockey career died then and there.
It did.
84-64. Wake today 6 of 19 from 3. 6 of 20 off the Childress miss. Brown able to recover. Deeks shooting only 27% from 3 in league games as the foul is committed, and Dorn will go to the line. NC State, a very favorable finishing schedule in the ACC. It started Wednesday against Boston College, taking care of business tonight against Wake. A test in Tallahassee next Saturday against Florida State, and then Georgia Tech and BC on the road to finish the season. 4-1 has to be the expectation in that 5-game stretch. They're about to go to 2-0. And if you get that Florida State win, that gives you a little bit of breathing room. But the Georgia Tech game, the BC game, Tonight they took care of business. Those are games you can't lose.
You're absolutely right, but of course in the ACC there are no easy wins, especially when you have to go to Boston College, which will be the last game of the season. Jordan Chapman, who did not play last night, has been shooting the ball very well for Boston College, and you could have Kai Bowman in what most likely would be his last college basketball game. Would not be an easy task knocking off the Eagles on their home court in Conte Forum in that last game.
Fourth foul on Daniels. Johnson to the free throw line. And Bowman would be playing a team from his home state of North Carolina. And historically in his career, he's played well against teams from Carolina. And we get another foul on Wake. It's Shondi Brown's third.
Foul on Brown, number 23, his third. That's the 10th team foul.
Double bonus now for NC State. 2 free throws the rest of the way. 1:41 left. With a win tonight, Kevin Keats will have a 4th consecutive 20-win season. Last year, took this team to the NCAA tournament in his first season as the Pack's head coach. A surprise to a lot of folks, and what was perhaps even more impressive is how he fared against his in-state rivals. Beat Duke, beat Carolina, swept Wake.
A great start to the tenure for Kevin Keats here at NC State. And in your opening introduction of Coach Keats,
terrific ping pong player.
After the great resume that you just mentioned for him as a basketball coach, you lead with a terrific ping pong player.
We've heard that before. We know he's a great coach. We know he's brought a lot of excitement and energy to this program. Ping pong is a sport, an Olympic sport, by the way.
I agree. I love ping pong. Not good at it.
Daniels drives the dagger even deeper.
I tell you, NC State is good at getting bench production. And when they have 9 guys going out and performing the way that this group has tonight, that makes the Wolfpack extremely difficult to beat regardless of competition.
I remember what Tony Bennett said after Virginia played in the first round against Wilmington. With Kevin Keats coming to the ACC, this is a style that's going to be very hard for a lot of teams to prepare for night in, night out.
Well, and Tony Bennett is a great person to say that because he also brought a different style to the ACC that is hard for teams to prepare for, but a complete contrast to what Kevin Keats does at NC State. But that's what makes the ACC the best conference in college basketball, is because one night you'll play against Coach Keats in their pressing style and where they turn you over 17 times a game. Then you'll play against Tony Bennett and where they actually make you grind out every possession defensively to only turn around the next time and play against Hall of Famer like Jim Boeheim that plays the zone for 40 minutes a game, and not to mention Hall of Famers Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, and all the great coaches in this conference, which is why ACC stands alone as the best conference in college basketball.
Dorn is fouled as we delay the inevitable. Wolfpack finished strong a season ago, winning 5 of their last 6 regular season games. On their way to their 4th win in 5 games. And I know that Virginia Tech game still is on the minds of some, that 47-24 loss, which Wolfpack Nation and Kevin Keats would like to extinguish from memory, but they've emerged from that as a better team. They're playing some of their best ball now down the stretch.
Well, and that also allows you to be able to get the point across to your team. You have to be prepared every night. In this league, you have to come prepared every night with the level of sense and urgency that you need to be able to repeat that component. We talked about the different styles, and for Kevin Keats, of course, going up a completely different style against Florida State next up, who plays a style all their own, 12-13 deep, with all talented players coming at you full speed, which will be a task for the Wolfpack as they have to go to Tallahassee with the Seminoles coming off of the loss to NC State, trying to get their, to North Carolina, trying to get their mojo back.
That last Aaron Spivey three makes it a neat 20-point win for NC State. The great David Thompson applauds. Markel Johnson was magnificent tonight. 25 points, 2 off a career-high, 6 threes. The Wolfpack have won 4 of 5. They've got some time to rest before a big road game in Tallahassee next weekend against a top 25 Florida State team. For Corey Alexander, I'm Anish Shroff. Final score from PNC Arena in Raleigh. NC State 94, Wake 74. The Wolfpack win a game they could not afford to lose. Good night from Raleigh.